this is the well-known passage, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It says this about love. Love is patient and love is kind. Love is not jealous. It doesn't brag. It's not arrogant. It doesn't act disgracefully. It doesn't seek its own benefit. It's not provoked, and it doesn't keep an account of a wrong suffered. Now, there's more there, but let's just hit the pause button. I mean, seriously, that is a lot to take in. And here's what happens to us, right? You're sitting on the third row of a wedding that you went to recently. The bride and the groom are up front, and this passage is read, 1 Corinthians 13, and you kind of get out your mental note, your notepad, and you start taking notes about how you can do better. You could do better at 1 Corinthians 13 love. Oh, let me see. What have I got to do today? Well, I'm going to really try to be patient. I'm definitely going to try to be more kind, and I'm not going to get jealous, whatever I do. And then I will be loving more. But I want you to see that this is not really about verbing it out, meaning it's not a verb, meaning it's not an action that you try to perfect. Now check this out. Love is a noun here. And what Paul is really saying in 1 Corinthians 13 is he's saying this is what it means to possess love, to possess the love of Christ inside of you. He's saying we have this treasure in earthen vessels. So let me describe it for you. Christ is patient and He lives in you. Christ is kind and He lives in you. This is not a laundry list of things that you need to improve. This is not a to-do list for Monday morning. This is Jesus' resume. And so what He's saying is, Christ is patient and Christ is kind and Christ is not jealous. And guess what? Jesus doesn't take into account any wrongs suffered. So you can expect, if you're born of God, which John just told us that we're born of God and we love because we're born of God, then you can expect that this Jesus, the patient Jesus and the kind Jesus and the one who doesn't brag and is not arrogant and the one who keeps no score, that Jesus lives in you. So it's not about trying to be more Christ-like. It's not about imitating the historical Jesus. You're not told to thumb through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and what are you going to do now? Walk on water? What are you going to do now? Call people snakes? What are you going to do? Turn over furniture in church? Imitating the historical Jesus? No. He put His life inside of us for a reason, and that life is patient and kind, and that life is forgiving and good, and that makes you good. And you're a forgiving person, and that makes you loving at the core. So God is good, and He made you good. And God is love, and He made you loving. And so 1 Corinthians 13 is a beautiful description of Christ, but, wait for it, it's also a beautiful description of who you are, what you look like at the very core of your being. If we were to cut you open on that spiritual operating table, what would you look like? Well, 1 Corinthians 13 shows us exactly your new spiritual DNA.